Is the era of Lasha Talakhadze over? And why is the Robu Nino beef heating up once more? On today's episode of the Weightlifting House News Show, we're going to take a look at two main headlines, break them down and make sure we understand exactly what's going on in the world of weightlifting. Before we get into it, head to weightliftinghouse.com for Black Friday, the biggest deals and sales of the year. It's products that are trusted by Olympic champions, world record holders, and now you get to have it too. Lots of the products you can actually get for free: sleeves, belts, straps, singlets in our buy any two get one free deal. The link to all of that is down below. So Lasha Talakhadze faces a huge crossroads in his career. Is he going to continue on in weightlifting and go for the mythical 4th Olympic gold medal? Or is it going to be politics? Or is it going to be both? I've had some conversations with people in and around Lasha. The 4th Olympic gold is very much in his mind still. There's been a lot of pressure from people within his team. Vocally, that would be Kaki Kakishvili, of course, the 3-time Olympic champion. He has been very vocal of Lasha continuing on. There's a lot of incentive. Lasha is very much motivated by this idea of GOAT status and is aware that he needs to do better than Piros Dimas in order to do that. Dimas, of course, got 3 Olympic gold medals and a silver. Lasha, if he gets 4, I think would be undisputed. Though really, I believe that the battle for GOAT status is not with Dimas, it's with Naeem. Regardless, I think 4 golds would seal the deal for him. So let's break this Lasha story down into a few parts. The first part is that Lasha has withdrawn from Worlds. So this 3-time Olympic champion, the 109 plus world record holder and everything, has had a maybe somewhat unexpected exit from the 2024 World Championships in Bahrain, which has solidified this as a bit of a pivotal moment, I would say, in not just his career, of course, but in the world of weightlifting. We've been in you could call it the Georgian era, the Lasha Talakhadze era for nearly a decade. I mean, really since 2015. We've been watching him do incredible things, certainly from 2016 onwards. So for him to now withdraw, he's not missed a World Championships in, 8 years. So this is very, very interesting. The second thing that we need to understand is there's a bit of a political shift going on, not just with his career potentially, but within Georgia. He has joined the Georgian parliament representing the Georgian Dream Team, who have gotten into office. So of course this then raises questions as to whether he wants to continue on in politics, where if you stay in politics, particularly as somebody as famous and influential as him within Georgia, I'm sure that the monetary payouts and the titles that you can gain significantly outweigh what you can get financially from weightlifting for another few years. And that is certainly, he's a family man, he's got kids, that's going to be drawing his attention, and he's been doing weightlifting for so long. But there's that battle internally because, as I mentioned, he has made reference to the fact that he wants GOAT status, and the only way that he knows that he can solidify that is with this 4th gold medal at the Los Angeles Olympics in 2028. He's also mentioned again, by the way, over the last few days to us about this 500 kilo total. He still talks about it. As much as I have stopped referencing it, a lot of you in the comments, I notice, talk about it less and less. In fact, if anything, there's like this sense of snark at the idea that he might even go for it again, which I totally understand where that comes from, this mythical 500, but he does reference it. I almost feel as though, whether or not I believe he can now do it, the fact that we owe him so much in the sport and he still considers it in his mind removes it from the group of things we're allowed to poke fun at. Whilst he's still thinking about it and wanting to do it, I don't think we can make fun out of the idea that it's achievable or laugh at the fact that he may or may not be able to do it. Once he retires or once he officially says that it's over, then I think we can talk about it. But yeah, he's got a decision here. He's at a crossroads. Let's also talk about how this impacts weightlifting. There's a bit of a milestone that he's missing here. As far as I can tell, no weightlifter has ever won 8 consecutive world championships. I've looked at, Alexiev, I've looked at Naeem, I've looked at Halil Mutlu, all of the big names who you think might have done it, Norb Chemansky, and I can't see it. There are athletes who've won 8, but not consecutive. It's worth mentioning that the first of which for Lasha was 2015, which he didn't win on the day. Of course, it was Alexei Lovchev who won it, but he then retroactively got that gold medal. He then won in 2017 Anaheim, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23. This would be the 8th. And then within that, you've got 3 Olympic Games and 7 European Championships. I mean, the guy's been undefeated since 2015. So he's missing that opportunity to become the first to get 8th consecutive, but that's not the headline that's going to frame his career. It's going to be 3-time or 4-time Olympic gold medalist. It's not going to be 8-time consecutive world champs. and 7-time I think is just fine for him. So since 2015, he clearly obviously has redefined this this super heavyweight category with his dominance. So there are going to be now new title contenders. Of course, with Lasha out of the picture in Bahrain, the door is open for Gormanasyan, who is now competing for Bahrain, and Vrazdat Lalian, who's competing for Armenia. Both have been on the podium behind Lasha for years. Gor was the first, and then Lalian joined a little bit later, more around that 2021 era at the Europeans and then the Worlds. But both of them, in any other era, really deserve to have been a world champion at this point. They are some of the best snatchers of all time. Gor is the second heaviest snatcher of all time. Lalian now equals third. So these guys are going to battle it out. I think we've got the crowd and the boost, potentially a financial boost for Gor in front of a home nation, or in front of the country that he represents. You know, and I think that could do it for him. I would love to see 220. He was this close to getting it at the Olympic Games again. He's been close several times now. I would love to see it. But the fact that we get to see one of them hopefully stand at the top of the podium is going to be amazing. Will Lasha return? Of course, we don't know. Lasha has said that he is actually committed to training. He's hinting that he may not be done with the platform entirely. There are rumours about a European Championships coming up in Georgia maybe in the next few years. If there is, then there might be interest from him to be involved in that. There's also a rumour that he's going to take over as president of the Georgian Weightlifting Federation, which I guess is almost like, you know, right in the middle of politics and weightlifting, which is cool. And the nice thing about that is it means that, at least this is purely selfish, but it means that we at Weightlifting House will still get to see him at all of these competitions over the next few years. So we don't know. Will he be at the European Championships in April? I have a feeling that he might be in Moldova. I have a feeling that he might be. I wonder if it won't sit with him right to retire, to not have officially retired on the platform. So his legacy is intact, of course, but his next steps, whether they're fully political or a mix, or it's just back to regular training, it's eagerly awaited by fans of the sport. I'm sure you'll all agree. Okay, let's move on to our next headline: Robu versus Nino. Also, it's worth saying, you can sign up to our Weightlifting House newsletter. All of these stories we write about every single week on a Friday. Both of these stories have already been out to subscribers. There's tens of thousands of you out there who get these, so if you're not and you want to get these bite-sized stories written down, sort of TLDR bullet points of what's going on in the world of weightlifting, along with the section that I do, lifts you might have missed. I put my favorite lifts from the week. Then you can head to weightliftinghouse.com. I'll put a link to that down below as well. If you get a pop-up when you're on the website and it's just like a, you know, some sort of pop-up about emails, if you put your email there, you'll get it, but I'll see if there's a specific link for you to sign up to. So just to set the scene, you will remember at the Paris Olympics, one of the biggest headlines was that Marin Robu lifted tremendously. Antonino Pizzolato, to his credit, also lifted very well, but more of an outlier performance from Robu. Robu went 5 for 5. He didn't take his final attempt in the snatch because he wasn't going to be able to make it, and he'd already pushed very high, and he's at an injury risk compared to most lifters based on various anatomical things. I guess you could say, with his hips, knees, ankles. In the final lift of the competition, between their battle, Nino managed to make a lift and hold it overhead, which I think in probably, certainly 9 out of 10, but maybe even more like 95 out of 100 competitions, maybe 99. This might be one of the only ones ever where he didn't get red lighted. What that meant was that Antonino Pizzolato ended up with the bronze medal. This caused uproar on social media. Robu didn't leave it alone. He kept posting about it. He was messaging me personally, he was messaging Weightlifting House. I'm sure he messaged a lot of other media outlets asking for them to talk about it more, because he felt, very understandably, I would say, like he was robbed. I think it's worth saying that Antonino Pizzolato did not rob Marin Robu. Nino did everything he could to compete. He did an amazing job. He fought until the final second, and what happens with the results is not down to him or Robu, it's down to the judging and the jury. This has nothing to do with Nino. He's a phenomenal competitor and an amazing athlete, and has done so much for the sport, and certainly more for the sport than Robu has done yet in his career. So this is not at all against Nino, but as a result, Marin Robu was upset. Nino got the bronze, and social media was ablaze with frustration and anger and opinions about whether it was good, whether it wasn't, whether Robu should suck it up or whether he should keep fighting. Who knows? But it's worth remembering that a bronze medal to a country like Moldova is extremely important. So if there's any chance they can get it, they're going to try and get it. So let's talk about Robu's ongoing fight for redemption. So Moldova is challenging, they're going to back Marin Robu in this. So with the backing of the Moldovan government, they're going to be filing a lawsuit basically for the poor poor judgment that has allowed Antonino Pizzolato to earn the bronze medal at the Olympic Games. Moldova is going to be challenging a jury decision. Specifically, they're not challenging Nino, they're not challenging Italy, they're challenging a jury decision from the Paris Olympics that cost their weightlifter Marin Robu the bronze medal in the men's 89 kilo category. So they're alleging that there's been a very blatant, obvious error in the judging. Moldova says that a mistake by the jury let another athlete, Antonino Pizzolato, move ahead of Robu in the rankings, unfairly taking away his bronze medal third place finish. So they're now going to take this case internationally. The Moldovan government will bring the case to the international sports bodies, including the Court of Arbitration for Sport in Switzerland. So they're really going for it, and they're putting in some financial backing behind it. They're putting in 1.8 million lei, L-E-I, I think that's Moldovan currency, which it's around $100,000, 80,000 pounds, 90,000 euros, and they've set that aside. The Moldovan government has set that aside to cover legal fee costs for the appeal. I have no idea how much this will cost. I wouldn't be surprised if it costs significantly more than that, but they've shown that they're willing to put their money where their mouth is, essentially. So in terms of the formal complaint, the Moldovan Weightlifting Federation, along with the National Olympic Committee, has already appealed to the International Weightlifting Federation to review the results and correct the decision. I don't know, personally, how that works. If they correct the decision, can they really take away a medal from an athlete? Maybe they can. Or will they just issue an additional bronze? I don't know. I mean, strange things have happened. I mean, you'll all remember the last Olympics in Tokyo, 2021, when the two high jumpers, also an Italian there, and the Qatar high jumper both won gold medals. So strange things like that can happen. There was a note here from Brian Oliver, who of course is the premier sort of written journalist in weightlifting. He said, this is a quote, "To be clear, this is not a challenge by the Moldovan Weightlifting Federation. It's the state sports authority. Apparently, a refereeing/jury decision cannot be changed. It is not within the jurisdiction of the CAS. Instead, the procedure will come under scrutiny. Was the review carried out properly, etc." What we're saying there is they're looking into whether the IWF went through correctly the procedure of how to check whether or not it was a good lift. Did they spend long enough? This is my assumption. You know, he got 3 reds. They reviewed it. First of all, why did they review 3 reds? I don't know. But they did, despite there being no challenge card played yet. They went to play the challenge card, but the jury had already said, no, we're looking into this. And then they unanimously overturned it. How did they do that? I'm sure none of us would have looked at that lift and thought, hang on a second, you 3 professionals gave it reds, but no, I think that's a good lift. I don't think any of us would have done that. So did they follow the process? What is the process? I don't know. Do they have to look at multiple angles? Did they look at all those angles? Did they record which angles they looked at? But I guess that is what is being challenged here. There's also a note here from Brian Oliver that the Jordan Chiles gymnastics case was all about procedure as well. I guess that's to say that this sort of challenge has been made before. It's more about the procedure being under scrutiny than the actual results changing, potentially. So that's what's going on here. Very interesting case. I'll keep you all updated. It might not make a Weightlifting House YouTube news show, but it will certainly be something that we'll talk about ongoing on the weekly Friday newsletter. So if you haven't signed up for that, do. And of course, head to weightliftinghouse.com right now. Head to Black Friday. Also, what do you think about this situation? Let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Would you be fighting it? I might be. I don't know. It's whatever it is, it's definitely a reminder to us all that potentially something ought to be done about the press out rule. I'm not saying you abolish it, but something maybe needs to be done to avoid situations like this where it seems like the vast majority of the weightlifting world feels for their boy Marin Robu. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below. I'll catch you guys on the next one.